Ever since the movie was released, there have been polarizing opinions on both ends. Most critics liked it, but on the other end of the spectrum, some describe Dunkirk as boring, empty, and the characters are undeveloped. In fact, most of my friends hated it. Everyone who came in expecting a Nolan film was greeted with something they were not familiar with. But is it really? Christopher Nolan's non-linear storytelling structure is still there. Perspective of time, the theme of urgency, and the exploration of moral ambiguity. Every aspect of Nolan's signature is still there. So why do people feel Dunkirk is such a departure from his past works? Personally, I feel the main reason is because Dunkirk is such a hard film to pin down. Everyone who went expecting a war film was left feeling disappointed. There aren't any heavy action scenes, no chaotic battlefield or fight scenes. Heck, we don't even see any German forces until the very end. The most action we got was an aerial battle that feels more like a cat and mouse game than a confrontation. It's not exactly dramatized either. Sure, we get the usual Nolan's exposition on morality, but the script is rather bare bones. The entirety of the Dunkirk script has a total of 15,098 words, and only 3,001 of them are written dialogue. If we take an estimation of 3 words per second, we get 1,000 seconds, or only 16.67 minutes of the time was spent talking out of a film with a runtime of 106 minutes. For the rest of the film, all we see are soldiers trying to survive. But if we call it a survival film, it's not quite right either. Although the stranded soldiers on land are a huge part of the story, a large portion of the film is spent on the sea where civilians are trying to rescue them. And in the air, where the British Spitfires are protecting the evacuation. To me, Dunkirk is a recreation film. It is an amalgamation of genres and techniques put together to recreate a very specific experience. The experience of Dunkirk. The most prevalent technique would be the use of music design and sound effects to expand the whole world outside of the screen. We hear constant bombings and gunfire. Even though we don't physically see the German forces, the threat of an enemy attack is always near. In Dunkirk, the audio tells the story more than the visuals. Hans Zimmer further enhances the effect using music with a ticking effect. The message is clear. Time is running out, and if the soldiers don't escape Dunkirk, they will all be killed. Furthermore, Nolan's storytelling in Dunkirk is incredibly intuitive. He doesn't need to explain anything. The dialogues are kept to a minimum, and the audience has to pay more attention to the details, sounds, and surroundings. Dunkirk doesn't spoon-feed us the developments. We just have to pay attention. Whether it's victory or sacrifice, Tommy and Gibson's silent camaraderie or George's conviction, the characters are fleshed out by their decisions. By adopting a minimalist approach in his filmmaking, Nolan makes it possible to weave in many aspects of Dunkirk masterfully and efficiently. My favorite part of Dunkirk is the treatment of the hostile forces. It is almost done like a horror movie with the timing. The Germans always strike at the worst possible timing, and they represent a very real threat despite their visual absence. They only appear after Farrier lands, as though the protection finally wore off when all the Spitfires are down. Ultimately, Dunkirk is a Nolan film through and through. More than that, it is a war film that we needed. It's not another epic war flick with convoluted romanticization. We don't need another guns a-blazing glory hero flick, but rather a film that is unafraid of silence. A film that does not shy away from the realities of war. And that film is Dunkirk.
Ay, 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 ay,